resolved. 25 bills that are coming up.
Sitting down there. Chat.
Okay. David's back from Mexico.
I'm leaving.
Well, they were double.
Yes.
Down.
I will probably, I'm not sure I'm going to submit this, but I know that my colleague,
When I come,
he is stroke.
Where's Wally?
Oh, hey. I forgot you're over there tonight.
I like his cue.
I'm looking like you, and I'm like,
Who's that? That's so young.
This is good.
Nobody's here.
Call to order?
I feel it's going to be the best meeting ever. Everything's going on the tables.
Come on.
Nobody's here.
Wally. Where's Wally?
Oh, no, eating candy somewhere.
Vince.
Wally, Kadeem. Mr. Chase, please take your seat.
Vince is coming.
Mr. Chase. Sorry. We're paging Wally like it's Walmart. Wally, Kadeem.
I guess we get.
Mark left. Mark left. Wally's missing. Mark left? Yeah. His child is sick. Is he playing that? He's going to try and there is nothing to get.
you need stuff.
I think we can start hearing that.
Okay.
Oh, Alan must want my vote or something.
All right, let's start the public hearing part of the ordinance committee meeting. And the first person on the list sign-up sheet is Stephanie Phillips.
Stephanie.
Form.
Good evening. Thank you. And welcome. Congratulations, Mr. Chairman, on your first ordinance meeting, and thank you to everybody here. My name is Stephanie Phillips. My address is 41 Yarwood Street. My comments are going to be brief. I think you've heard most of them already. I'm here to support the Stratford High School. It is one of the most imperative expenditures I think we need to move forward on. We're now down to the wire. If we don't move forward on it, we're going to lose the special funding that we have and all the progress that we have made over the last 3 years. As you've heard me mention many times before, this is the one project that, in my council at least, Republicans, Democrats, we were all able to come united around. I think you've heard a lot of explanation about the cost, why it is where it is, and fortunately, it's going to be in your hands to make sure that that cost does not exceed any more than what is on your agenda. And we are already maxed to the reimbursement that I believe that we're going to actually see. So things are pretty much set. I think this is the final numbers. And as long as I hope members of this council join the subcommittee, I think this will be an outstanding project that will raise not only the assessment values and the values of our homes, but also the educational level of our children and the future of our town. On the other subject that I'd like to ask for your consideration is the budget. I know everybody's been working very, very hard on coming up with ideas of how to address the $5.1 million. And I've talked to many of you, and there's some very, very good ideas. Many of them have been around from when I was on the council during the WPCA fight. Some of them have been some new ones that have been added. What's important is that, unfortunately, you have been saddled with the responsibility of finding $5.1 million. And I think you can. All of us are here working together to help you. I ask that you do pass a resolution that does comprehend the $5.1 million. For the health of our town going forward, we need to get that solved, resolved, and put away. You have a new budget that's going to be coming out in less than a month, and your focus will need to turn to that. So with that, you have a number of things. You passed $3 million the other night. That's halfway through it. I think the other transfers for the WPCA will fill in the majority of the gap, and then I think there's some ideas of how to fill in a little less than $1 million. So my point is, for the health of the town, it is important that we resolve this $5.1 million, get it done, and let's move on so that we can now work on the next budget. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Walter Rumkin?
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Name's Walter P. Rimkunis, 425 2nd Avenue. How much time do I have?
4 minutes.
You didn't say that. Okay.
Sorry.
I'm going to make it brief. Make it easy on you. All I'm going to say tonight, you've heard me. You've read everything. I've gone to all the meetings. You know my ideas. Do your best on voting for these Stratford High School and the other things that are on the agenda. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Linda Palermo?
Sorry, it looks like scribble. Linda Palermo, 46 Vault Place, Stratford. I'm here tonight to support, on my paper it's G, Stratford High School, and on the flip side it's G, I believe, H, Stratford High School. I would like to see that moved forward. I would like to get that project going so we can have something here in Stratford that we can be proud of. And then I also support F, so that our finance director can start moving money around. Sometimes things get pretty hectic for her, and I would like to see that done this evening also. Thank you.
Thank you. And that's the last speaker, so I think this ends the public hearing portion. What time should we get back together? So yeah, why don't we go ahead right into the regular ordinance committee meeting? Where's the
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
I'd like to make a motion to take 2 items out of order. That would be the 2 items pertaining to Stratford High School, which I believe are shown as item G, G and H.
Point of order, Mr. Chairman. I believe you need to call the meeting to order first.
Oh. Call to order.
No, we didn't.
Who? Call to order the ordinance committee. What? So.
Okay, as we are now in session, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to take items G and H out of order.
I'll second.
Sorry, point of procedure. I have 2 different agendas in front of me. Can I have an explanation of?
Did you get the corrected one?
I have a corrected one, I have an old one. So we are dealing only with the corrected one. And
Yeah.
can I ask in the future that any corrected agendas, that the town council clerk, please send those to us ahead of time, please?
So, Mr. Llewellyn, you want to move,
Motion's been made and seconded, we should take a vote.
take a vote to move G and H to the forefront, right?
Out of order.
Okay. Vote? Ponte?
Aye.
Fantastic.
Aye.
Oh, vote, I'm sorry, I thought you were having a discussion.
Oh, no, no.
Oh, yeah, out of order, yes.
Yes.
The chairman votes yes, so that would be 2, 4, 6, 7 to 0.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that this ordinance committee take item G and send it to town council with favorable recommendation. And that ordinance, again, is increasing the total dollar value amount for the Stratford High School renovation to the amount of $125,966,646.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to second that motion.
Mr. Ponte, let's bring it to a vote.
Aye.
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 The chairman votes aye, 7-0.
And then, Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we send to the town council with favorable recommendation item H, which is basically the continuation of the town's amount for the total project, and that amount is in the amount of $65 million, which is the same amount it has been since 2015.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Why don't we vote on this? Let's go
Is there
around again.
discussion?
Any discussion? We'll go to vote.
Okay. Aye.
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 And I vote aye. It passes 7-0. Okay. Approval of minutes from the last meeting was April 27th, 2015. Does anybody's second? Discussion?
To the town attorney. To either one of our town attorneys. The better-looking one. You choose.
Well, that's John's. But what's the question?
The question is this. There's a couple of items that were on the April 27, 2015 agenda that are now appearing on our agenda.
You mean specific ordinances?
Yes.
EMS.
Yeah, these proposals. My question is, should these have died, or, this is a new council. Why are they being forwarded to us?
Well, they were laid on the table at the ordinance committee meeting in April of 2015, so they remained on the table.
Yeah, but this
But your question is, did they die when the last ordinance committee went out of
previous
being?
discussion, yes.
I mean, we can look at that. I don't think we've ever held that, because ordinances have remained from one council or one ordinance committee to the next.
Right.
But if you wanted us to look at that, we can do that.
Yeah, I think we should do that just for the sake of future councils.
Which specific ordinances are we talking about here?
I'm referring to any of them that were on the April 27, 2015 agenda that now appear on this new council's, new ordinance committee's agenda.
Which is the trees and shrubs?
One is the EMS shrubs,
Abatements?
abatements, yeah.
The ordinance regarding regular meetings?
Yes.
Ordinance amending the EMS committee?
Yes.
Yep, any of them.
Yeah, I'm just trying to find out which ones there are, which ones they are.
Well, the council clerk can probably help you out.
Okay.
And then one question, in case you come back and say, yeah, we should take these up, or it's our decision. On the ordinance number A, what would be the setback? It's not clear. After reading the proposed ordinance, it's not clear to me exactly where the setback is. In other words, we have a road, there's a tree growing. How many feet do you go into an individual's yard before it's determined whether it's the town's responsibility or the homeowner's responsibility to remove that tree.
Yes, we'll take a look at that.
Yeah, okay. Thank you, appreciate it.
So do we have a vote on the approval of minutes? Oh, I'm sorry.
Just, the question I have is, can we vote on the minutes if none of us were on this committee?
Sure.
Yes, you can. I mean, obviously, you should review those minutes, but yes, you can vote on the minutes and approve them.
Mr. Floric?
Yes.
How would I know the veracity of the minutes if I had not attended the meeting?
Well, one mechanism is that you can listen to the tape.
Okay, I guess I should have done that.
Anybody else?
I have a question about the specific ordinance. Are we voting on these?
No, we're
We're going to
This
vote
is
on the minutes.
voting on the minutes.
So
To approve.
this one that's under the unfinished business and tabled item, is that part of the minutes, or is it's unfinished and tabled?
No, they're different categories.
So they're going to be totally different categories. They're going to come up to us separately? Okay, thank you.
Yes.
That's fine.
A is tabled.
All right, so a vote to approve the minutes from the last ordinance committee meeting.
So moved.
Okay.
I can't.
Beth?
Aye.
Joe?
Excuse me, Phil, could you talk into the microphone more
Oh,
close?
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Shouldn't there be a second?
What's that?
Was there a second to the motion?
Oh, there wasn't a second. I second the motion.
I didn't.
Okay, call the question?
This
The
is just
motion is to approve the minutes.
from the
All
last
those in
meeting.
favor?
All those in favor?
Aye.
The chair votes aye.
Can't hear them
7-0.
put their mouths on the mic.
Then we have 3 unfinished business and tabled items. Ordinance amending Chapter 200, trees, shrubs, and woody vegetation, 1410.
I'd like to make a movement to remove that from the table, please.
You want to move it from the table? So moved.
I will second removing that from the table.
Okay. So, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. No.
No. Yeah. While we're waiting for the attorney,
The vote is to remove it from the table.
Yeah, I'm trying to make up my mind.
Okay.
Is it the first one?
Yes.
can you do a roll call vote on that one?
No.
please?
Why don't we do a roll call vote on that? Starting with you, Mr. Ponte?
No.
I don't think
Mr. Resco?
No.
Santezo? Vote? To pull it off the table?
voting to remove it from the table?
Yes.
I voted no.
No.
Yes.
Yes.
The chair votes no. So it stays on the table.
The new business. I'm assuming that's one, right? EMS?
Then we've got new business, Section 4, Item A. An ordinance amending 88.5 EMS Committee.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
The items A through F, I believe, the town attorney's office is going to look at for an opinion as to whether they should even be here or not. Why not simply table those items pending our report back?
Okay. Right then.
Recommendation to table items A through F. And let the
Can we
attorneys get back
table
to us.
them all at once?
Yeah.
Or do you have to go one?
A motion to table?
Unless somebody wants to divide the question.
Motion to table. Second. She motioned. So I'll second.
All those in favor of tabling?
Aye.
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 Aye. Chairman says aye. That's 7-0. Then we move on to
One left.
Item I.
item I.
Oh, wait a minute.
Wrong agenda.
We've already
This one should be tabled. It wasn't on the minutes. Excuse me. Item F, an ordinance amending Chapter 14 of the Code of the Town of Stratford, was not on the previous minutes.
Mr. Chair? I'm sorry, we already voted to table items A through F.
Should not have included F.
And then we're looking at item I, an ordinance amending the annual operating budget. It's requiring authorization for previously approved capital improvements. Do we have discussion on this?
We first need a motion.
What's that?
You need a motion first.
Table it.
Motion to, what, to open?
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve an ordinance amending the annual operating budget, item number 15-03 for the town of Stratford for fiscal year commencing July 1, 2015, and ending June 30th, 2016, item 16-04.
Second.
Okay. Any debate?
May I ask the Attorney Hodgson, who had commented on this in an email that was sent out to the entire town council, to also provide his comments tonight on this?
What?
I'm asking the town attorney to provide comments on this, since he had provided comments on this ordinance before in an email to the entire town council.
Specifically, you're looking at the amending the budget ordinance, directing the mayor to cut.
No, this is
money.
This is
actually
item
what,
I.
this is I, item
I'm
I.
sorry. Attorney Floric and I are looking at an agenda that
Yeah,
seems
that's,
to be
Exactly.
different from.
Here you go. Here, look at this
we had
one.
the same thing.
New one.
So,
Item I.
item I.
It's on the back.
He's got it.
Well, if this is the ordinance, excuse me, let me just catch up and see which one this is.
Can I remind what you had informed us of on Thursday regarding this?
Well, if this is the ordinance that purported to direct the mayor to cut, I'll use the loose number of $2 million from the budget, that is the ordinance that I reviewed. Are we talking about the same ordinance?
Section 8 is the same.
Yes,
Here-
my view was that under the charter, that once the council has passed an appropriation ordinance, that it's appropriate for the council then to transfer money from departments under section 6.2.5, and that there would not be authority then to direct the mayor to cut anything from the budget. So my view is that there's no authority in the charter for this ordinance.
This is actually I, which is 1503, which is a little bit different, is further along than the one you're talking about.
Okay. I don't have 1503 in front of me.
I'm sorry.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Hi. I'd like to make an amendment to this regarding, I read the town attorney's opinion. I did receive that from council chair, and I wanted to make an amendment for the suggested for section 8, in which that whole section where the mayor is being asked to, in the amount of no less than $2.7 million plus, shall file a list of such reductions with the town council clerk. I'd like to strike that whole section up to the part where it says administrative officer explaining each section and reduction, and insert the following statement: in the amount of $777,914.86 from the line items identified below. I'm open to friendly amendments to this amendment that I worked on. These are line item deductions that would make the budget whole at a $5.1 million, combined with
with Councilman Gresco and Council Chair DePonte's resolution that was passed this week. This would, combined with the WPCA piece that is mentioned in the original ordinance, it would not only make the budget whole, but it would include a surplus.
Mr. Chairman, I would second that motion.
Mr. Chair, can I ask the town attorney whether, it seems to me, and I was just handed these changes prior to this meeting, it seems to me that that's a pretty substantial change to the ordinance that was read in the first meeting. Can I ask the town attorney if indeed this makes it pretty much like a new ordinance that would require a first reading again at the town council and be referred, or how that would actually work so we can make such reductions correctly? It's a question to the town attorney.
Well, I would like to look at the ordinance itself to see what the changes are and to see whether
Here you are.
whether it makes it legal or not. I'm not sure what the changes are.
The change simply replaces what you have said was not correct. You said that we could not order the mayor. So in place of that, Tina and I think
Did
Mr.
what charter allows, which is
Dumas
to
worked on it for a
reduce
while
line item.
and came up with $777,914.86 of cuts spread over a number of items
Which are
instead
up
of
for
all at once.
discussion and further amendments if people don't agree. But this is our best attempt at making our budget whole and fulfilling our promise that was made during the election to find a way to balance the budget completely now.
Stand this seat.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
I am very empathetic and actually would very much like to balance the budget in the correct way. I just want to make sure that we are doing everything by dotting our I's and crossing our T's. And I'm just afraid that providing council members, ordinance committee members, with significant changes a couple of minutes before a meeting starts, and the town attorney is only now having a chance to look at these changes, that's not quite fair. And so perhaps we should table
These were
this.
sent out January 10th.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Possibly we can recess for 5 or 10 minutes and allow the attorneys to review it, along with any other council members who have not had the opportunity.
Good
I move
idea.
for a recess for 5, or Susan, would you like to speak?
Second.
Yes, go ahead and speak.
Well, there is a motion now on the floor, so.
Okay, well, we'll do it afterwards, Susan, sorry.
Well, we get to vote on that motion,
Right.
Yes.
right? So,
All in favor of taking a recess?
no.
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 To allow Susan to speak.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chase.
You're very welcome.
I appreciate that. This is the first I've seen this. I know it was referenced the other evening at the meeting, but I've never had a copy of this. You guys are going to do what you're going to do, but I can't even tell you if the balances that are quoted here are still available. You know, I haven't been contacted. No one's asked me for current fiscal numbers. This money could be encumbered. There could be plans for it already. So I'm not. I just wanted to let you know that I just saw it this evening, and if you were looking for any input from the finance director, I can't give it to you tonight because I'm blindsided. Thank you.
Sue, I just want to make a comment about this. They're actually small things taken from multiple line items within various departments. Nothing is strategically large, I would say. But
that we worked from.
the thing is, we looked at the last. I worked on this with Tina. We looked at the very last expenditures, income that we could get from your office to make sure that portions had not been spent. In some instances, we took from accounts where nothing has been spent thus far. And we're, 8 months into the year?
Correct.
Yeah.
But-
So, and I understand what you're saying. It could have been spent last week, but
Well, also, there could be plans, someone could have be planning to spend it a month from now. It could be committed, but not yet in the balance that way.
Wouldn't that have been
And in addition, when you're changing the gas and oil lines, I manage those lines. And they're on at least a 2-month lag. So we're not going to have our final gas and oil utility lines
Yeah, there's
at
only
least
one
until
gas
the
and
end
oil in
of
here.
August. At least until the end of August 2016. 2 months after the year is over, we're still booking actuals into the prior year. So to cut utility lines and gas and oil lines when we don't even know what the true expenses are going to be, you can do it, but then we'll end up being over budget when the actuals actually go over the budget. So
I know this is going to be a big pain to you because instead of 1 or 2 things, you're going to have to put in all these things. But anyway.
That's not the issue.
No?
I can handle a lot more than this. I'm just saying I don't know if these funds are even available.
I believe there's only 1 gas and oil in there.
Mr. Chase?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Sue, in August, we also collect the late payment taxes.
Excuse me?
In August, we generally collect late payment taxes that then are applied to the previous fiscal year.
The first 2 months of fiscal 17, anybody who pays arrears taxes in those 2 months, so taxes for 16 or prior, those taxes get applied to fiscal year 16. It's called the 60-day rule.
Right. And
After that, they fall as arrears in 17.
yes, I understand that.
Okay.
So, any of the arrears could be applied to that oil account.
Well, that's applied to everything. That's our catch-all. One of the ways that we balance the budget is we don't know until at least the end of August what our total 60-day number is going to be.
Mm-hmm.
But that's to balance an entire budget that has overages and underspending all over the place.
Surely, we understand that.
Some of it by millions of dollars. So.
But looking at the last muni, a number of the councilors, it appeared to them that, increase in spending really jumped up in these various accounts. It looked as though people were trying to anticipate the council's want to reduce the deficit, and therefore were spending their budgets as quickly as possible. Now, that may not be true, but it's an observation that some have made looking at the latest muni. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
And I understand what the goal is. I'm just saying that I haven't had a chance to absorb it. So there's, just like the resolutions that I had presented to you, I find that clear. I can show you what the current balance is, where you want to move the money, and then an ending balance. This doesn't tell me any of that because I don't even know if the funds are available.
Ms. Mass?
One of the things with the line items, and you had shared it, I think the first or second council meeting, was that the town department heads have the ability to move money within their department to any fund that they see fit. So even though you cut from one line, they can always move to another line, and they can move money around however they need to, and that's really great. I'm a department head as well. That's a really great thing because then you have some flexibility. However, the ordinance and the mayor, and you were very clear and said that the mayor and you had that ability to move things in between departments unless there was some kind of an ordinance or something to make that happen. So we're trying to make that happen in a way it still allows that flexibility for those department heads, because even though it says CAO&P gas and oil, if that doesn't cover and there's more extra, there are contingencies all over this budget. There are 6061 education all over this budget for non-union, non-CBA bargaining units. There are printing and stationery all over this budget. To add them all up, it's like everything's been sprinkled all over the place, and then to be able to make it whole again is very, very difficult. But it still doesn't change the fact that if we cut it, they can't move something else up there if they need to print business cards. Is that correct?
No, I don't think that's it. The reason you see things like printing and stationery sprinkled around, because a budget like my department is 2 people, but we spend over $500 on the printing cartridges. Other departments, and we have a lease for our copier. Those things, it doesn't seem like a lot of money to you, but the departments that are managing those small amounts, they're managing them to the penny for those things. So you might see that they haven't done a budget transfer yet, or that you think they're not planning on using the money, but they could be. And I'm not saying that you can't do it. I just think if you work with me, we could come up with better numbers than you guys just kind of guessing at it. And me trying to give you answers on the cuff at an ordinance meeting, not the most efficient way to get it
Well,
done.
January 10th, this was sent to the CAO. And January 10th, it was sent to both caucuses. Information from this was sent. And I know there's been a transfer of people and all that kind of stuff. We had been talking about line items for a while. We met actually after the last WPCA meeting. 5 of us met together.
5 of you did, right.
We met together and we talked about this. So this has been on the docket and been being discussed. We're just bringing it forward. Whether we vote on it or not, I don't think all of the council is even here. Whether we want to move forward, that's up to us. But just to be able to put this out here and talk about it publicly with people, I think is the most important thing, that we're trying to do something and not leave a $1.5 million budget until the new budget comes through, because people are not happy about that. When the resolution that's put forward with the WPCA only is not enough, they want more. Like, why isn't it balanced? You said it would be balanced. And the stuff that Ms. Phillips put in the paper balanced the budget. Why isn't that being used? The stuff that you guys put forward, why isn't that? You said it would happen. And we have a responsibility to make it happen. So understand where we're coming from. We're just putting it out there because we have a responsibility to the people who elected us.
I understand. I'm just saying, I just got it tonight. So
Right,
I'm the finance director. If you want me to help you, you gotta work with me. And right now, you're not working with me. And that's fine. You guys you can do your way. That's fine. I'm just letting you know that it's not the most efficient way. I'm here all day, all night. You send me emails, I reply. I will work with you guys, but I can't help you with this one tonight. Sorry.
Are we going to take a 5-minute break?
Take a recess?
Said motion?
Move to take a recess for 5 minutes?
Move, take a recess.
Second?
Aye.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
We still have
Not quite. Everybody's here.
I'd like to hear from the town attorney on whether we can actually do this stuff.
Well, I think, I was saying before, that the basic problem I see is that if you're taking an ordinance amending the annual operating budget that does not seem provided for in the charter, that the charter is very specific about the council's budget-making authority, and that once the budget's adopted and not vetoed by the mayor, at that point you go to section 6.2.5, which talks about transfer between departments, so that if you were going to take the funding away from various departments, you'd put that in a contingency fund and defund it, but you're not going to amend the budget, which we set our mill rate on, and basically you're trying to redo everything that's already been adopted by ordinance. So once you do that appropriations ordinance, that's my understanding of how our charter works. And so now, like we saw last week, with the councilperson DePonte's resolution, that you can take funds and move those funds between departments, and that's how I understand the charter to function. So, and then I understand, Sue Collier's points about wanting to make sure that what you're doing is the correct amount of money.
I just want to make a comment to the attorney. We have never had a situation such as we have today, so there's no provision, as far as I can see, in the town charter for amending or fixing a so-called hole in the budget of close to $5 million.
I understand.
Yeah.
I know it's unprecedented. it's just when Attorney Floric and I sit here, we just want to make sure that we are providing good legal advice and looking at what the charter provides. And I understand your desire to act to save the money. I'm not sure, though, that you can just amend the budget ordinance like this.
When will you be sure?
I'm sure.
You're sure?
I am. But I mean, just in terms of
No, they aren't.
you accomplishing, no, my reading of the charter is that you have to act under 6.2.5 to transfer money between departments. And that,
Between departments.
whatever, 6.2.5 provides authorized to transfer unused balances appropriated for one purpose to another purpose or to appropriate available revenues not included in the annual budget.
Absolutely. So these are unused balances that are currently in the munis budget.
Transfer of unused balances appropriated for one purpose to another purpose.
Exactly. And isn't that what the ordinance is doing?
But I believe that's what limits the authority of the council.
That we
set
can,
forth in our
that we
charter.
cannot transfer? But it
That
says that we can.
That you can, yes.
That we can.
Yes.
So that's what we're asking to do.
Okay.
We're asking to transfer these funds from here to cover this budget gap that was created by the mayor.
All right. I'm reading it just that you're
And the
striking
fin-
funds from the
council.
budget.
Well, excuse me?
I'm reading it that you're striking funds from the budget.
Those
I
are
think
being
there's a
struck
difference.
from the budget. Those are the old ordinance. Basically, those funds are being struck because the WPCA, that's the part of the ordinance that was the other piece, the earlier part, to strike those pieces. The second part that's being added, the addendum, is that those line items would be deductions that would then cover the remaining balance and then some.
Well, are they being
And it's-
transferred?
Well, it's an ordinance, they would be transferred. It's an ordinance to amend an ordinance. So if you have an ordinance, you need another ordinance, correct?
No, I understand that the appropriate procedure would be under 6.2.5 to transfer funds from one department to another. And I don't believe that's what this ordinance does.
I'm looking at 6.2.5 myself, and it says members may authorize the transfer of unused balances appropriated for one purpose to another purpose.
Yes. If that's what,
Okay, so
resolution or
basically
ordinance does, I don't
we're
see-
transferring it to the deficit, supposedly. I don't know the right phrases for it, but if we're enumerating unused monies as we see them, line by line across various departments.
I understand. I'm just trying to help, and I understand that if you want to transfer the money, that's well within your prerogative. But I just don't read the word transfer, that it's being transferred anywhere.
Ms. Stefante?
My understanding is that the correct way of doing this is to transfer funds from one account to an account called council contingency, since that's the only account that the mayor and his office is not allowed to touch. So we can do that, but that's by resolution, not by ordinance. So I would encourage you to...
What is your objection to this ordinance, though?
I just want to make sure that we do things... I am with you in spirit. I just want to make sure that we do things correctly. And hearing the town attorney's advice here on the amendment, and I know Mr. Hodgson and Mr. Floric have quite a bit of experience to lend to us here, and I respect their experience. And hearing Susan Collier's, I'm not done yet, hearing Susan Collier's comments on this, I think, and then getting this shortly before this meeting, and getting, I think that the right way to do this, or better way of doing this, would be to have these as separate resolutions that would be introduced at the council meeting, and we could vote on them there. And that would be in 2 weeks. And I would encourage that those transfers to occur, because like you, I am also concerned about any possible deficits, and anything that we can do to stop the flow for the end of the year, I think is a good thing. but I'm just afraid that this is not the right way of doing this.
Okay, I was one of the people that voted against the proposal at the last special council meeting. And my thought on that is, instead of going over various items from various departments, it's simply taking one big chunk of money out of a reserve fund, which is still unclear to me as to how much should be in there and so forth, and it doesn't do a single thing to the expenditures over various departments that at this point, at the end of January, some of them had spent none of it. And I understand what Sue means. It could possibly have spent it this month. Maybe that would straighten itself out. But just to take it out of one reserve fund bothers me a lot. Oh, wait a minute. There's some part. The other part of it was they took it out of WPCA. Well, that's the same thing as in here. They moved $600,000 to the town. They moved $300,000 to the town.
Okay, two things. The resolution was not taking any money out of the internal service fund. What my resolution was doing, the second one that you actually passed, which I appreciate, was we're choosing to not fund the internal service fund at the same rate as we have in the past due to these unique circumstances. It was my idea. I ran it by the auditors, ran it by the mayor, ran it by my assistant finance director, who's an auditor who worked for the firm that we now have as our auditors. I ran it by our finance advisor for when we go out to bond counsel. We're choosing to not fund our internal service fund for our long-term liabilities and workers' compensation claims at the same rate. We are not taking any money out of the internal service fund. This is money that is in the general fund generated by our tax dollars. We're not raiding any funds. That's what the $3 million is.
If I look at the, and I have it right here, if I look at the beginning of your two recommendations here, we start out with the debt service fund at $5,100,000. By the time we've done all these transfers that you say don't take any money out, the bottom line is you're left with $1,320,000. So you must have taken something out of it.
No, what we're doing is we're reducing our overall revenues and expenses. We have not raided the internal service fund, nor have we taken any money out of the fund balance for WPCA. All that was doing was putting us back to the way we operated in the past, where WPCA pays rent, pays an overhead charge, and they also pay for 4 public works gentlemen who used to work for WPCA, but the EPA told us they need to be on our books. They spend approximately 50 to 60% of their time cleaning storm drains with town equipment. So we charge those hours to the WPCA. It's actually not any more of an expense as it was before, because if you look, their head count used to be 4 people higher in 2012. That's all we're doing is cleaning up the budget. We're not raiding any funds. The fund balance in WPCA has not been touched. We cannot touch that. That's not
I'm not talking about the WPCA. I'm talking about your reserve fund. Anyway.
Okay, the reserve fund, again, that was just a tool to move the dollars into the general fund. That reserve fund, the money coming into it was represented by the money we would have gotten from Greater New Haven. Since that money doesn't exist, I'm just trying to clean the budget up as much as I can. I can't wipe out the whole $5 million at once because you have to have a balanced budget. That's all this is.
Yeah.
Mr. Chase?
Sue, we've been at this for a couple months now.
I know. I wish you guys would start trusting me.
Oh, I think we trust you. It's just that we're still waiting to get something from you. We'd like to balance the budget.
I agree. I have been working with you. I'm giving you everything I have. If you need more response, I'll talk to the CAO about the administration. But the changes that we have made, I feel most comfortable doing it in the format that I've done it in, based on 6.4.1 or whatever it is, in resolution format. The two that I've done brings the deficit down a bit, and now we get down to the real part, how to find the balance of it. I totally agree with you on that, but right now we're mixing three separate issues. The WPCA sale did not happen. It didn't happen. So all I want to do is clean up the budget so that when I go to the bond council and I go to the auditors at the end of the year, they say, how come you haven't had your books reflect what actually happened? And that's the goal of a budget. A budget is a live document that moves as actuals move.
I understand that.
Okay.
I truly do understand
I know.
what you're saying.
I'm just passionate.
But the issue at hand is there is still, with the mayor's proposal and your transfers of the WPCA funding, there's still a hole of about $2.7 million. Now, the gentle chairwoman wants us to wait until the next council meeting in 2 weeks. That's March 8th. You're required to provide us with the next budget by March 12th. And we understand that there's going to be a deficit there. What are we doing in terms of flowing the blood from this budget and the next budget? Is there some goal that the administration has? And if there is, share it with us.
I am the administration here tonight.
No.
I'm the only. I'm the only. Oh, Chris is here. I apologize. I was looking for him out here.
Okay.
I can give you what I've done. Now, how about tomorrow? You need to reach out to the rest of the administration. I can't answer those questions for you right now. I apologize. I wish I had those answers for you, but I don't.
Tina?
I appreciate all your hard work. You are a tireless worker, and you are a very good soldier, and I appreciate that, and I see how hard you're working. So please don't take this personally, because I'm not going to talk to you. I'm going to talk up to that camera because I hope the mayor's watching. You need something to happen in order for you to run an efficient government. We need something to happen in order to be responsible to the constituents that we serve. It is up to Mayor Harkins and this administration to provide us with the information and tools to make these cuts happen in a way that helps you be more efficient. Otherwise, we're at a stalemate right now. And this is caused by your own words. This is the best plan that's been put forward. Mr. Chase asks, what is the plan? There is none. So I'm hoping Mayor Harkins understands where we're coming from and he comes back with something better so that he can run efficient government, because that's ultimately what we're all after, is to able to let you do your job efficiently. And that's up to him as the head CEO of our organization, is to help us run efficiently and to help us make this budget whole before the new one comes.
Mm-hmm. Okay, but for this, can I just ask you to just, can I ask, if you just pass revisit that second resolution, and the rest of it, I will work with you, and I will try to get the administration to work with you. It's just, we're changing the format. You're throwing all this stuff out here. The wording isn't, it may not even, pass the attorneys or bond counsel, or, everything has to be done legally. And you guys you're kind of getting the cart in front of the horse on this. I know what your goal is. I will work with you on it after March 12th, because I do have another project I'm working on. But I'll have the administration reach out to you immediately, but I would just really appreciate it if you wouldn't just change the stuff that works. These resolutions are clean, they're per the charter, and I know what I'm doing.
Not enough.
You're right, but these two pieces are something that if we could just get these out of the way, we could deal with the rest. But we keep muddling three separate issues, and it's very hard to keep track. Mm-hmm. And if you're having a hard time, and if I'm having a hard time, everyone's having a hard time following it. We can keep it separate and clean.
It seems to me, and I can have a disagreement with the attorneys, since we have never done this before in Stratford, that I don't understand why anybody would object to us literally balancing the budget.
We have had a mini tax in the past. The town has been in fiscal straits before where they have had a mini tax. And when you make budget transfers, exactly, but when you make budget transfers that aren't, the impact of it, the net impact is zero, then you're basically telling us we need to go out and raise taxes prior to June 30th. We can't do that. It's
all right. What I don't understand is why we can't tell some departments to spend less of X, Y, or Z, whatever we've picked.
You can. And I would love
Okay.
to work with you on that, and I would love it to be in the same format and the same type of resolution wording that I already know is, the wording is accurate, it ties to our charter. I can give you the starting balances, I could show you which accounts have balances that are not going to be spent. You can make a decision to cut them or not cut them. But to pick them to do it in an ordinance that I haven't seen, that I don't know if the wording is accurate, which is not the way we usually do it, is not efficient. If you want to do it, that's always fine, but honestly, I don't have another month to work on this. I can help you the other way. I could do it with my eyes closed.
I can understand that, Sue. So if we vote to do this without your agreement, without the attorney's agreement, I'm still saying we're in new territory. What you referred to before, they did a mini tax. I remember that. We don't want to do a mini tax.
I wouldn't recommend it. I'm not recommending it at all.
Mr. Ponte?
Thank you. I just want to make sure that we know where we are in the agenda, which is we are discussing the amendment to this.
We're discussing the amendment.
We're discussing the amendment and not necessarily resolutions from the council meeting.
I apologize.
It sounds like the attorney Attorney Hodgson has recommended that this amendment is not legal or is not advisable.
There's no authority for it under the charter.
Okay, that we have no authority for it under the charter. Perhaps
that
we
doesn't
can.
mean it
perhaps
can't be
we
done.
Can, I'm sorry, I was speaking. Perhaps that there's no authority under the charter. Therefore, if there was a challenge to it, that would be messy.
Well, who would challenge
and
it?
that all of these changes can be done by resolution with transfers into the council contingency.
And
so perhaps we can move. I move to vote on this.
Yeah, do you want to move the vote on?
On the amendment.
On the amendment. Right.
No, I have.
You have a second?
Unless is the discussion done?
Yeah, I would like to continue.
Can I say one more thing? I don't know if I can act on it. So you guys may vote on it, but then I'm going to have to, and I understand what your goal is, but doing it this way, I'm not sure as finance director I can act on something if I'm not sure the way you're doing it is legal. So that's your answer about who would do it. It would be me, because I can't do something until I'm sure I'm doing it the right way. And I know the way that I do it now is legal. So I feel more comfortable doing it the way that I have set it up already.
All right, well, we are all dancing around the issue of this is not going to pass because the votes aren't here. We need 7, and we certainly know that it's not going to be unanimous
I didn't even count.
to vote for this.
Okay.
So the question I have to you, what is to prevent, and do you have the authority, or is it the mayor, or is it the chief operating officer? Who has the authority to tell the department heads, freeze, stop spending, because what I see in the next 2 weeks, if we pass the chairman's resolution, there's going to be a spending party to get their money, as much of their money spent as possible.
Yep.
I second
That's
that
our
question.
concern.
What?
I second that question.
The mayor has the authority.
Actually, the meeting isn't until the 14th.
And the mayor has issued a spending freeze for non-essential spending.
And the mayor is 156% over budget, I believe, in the munis.
No, that can't be.
Like that? It's bad.
It's not 156% over?
I'd have to look, but I mean, first of all, it's a very small department, and secondly, yeah, no.
Mr. Chairman?
Mr. Ponte?
No, I agree with Mr. Chase's sentiment and understand the incentives to spend as much as one can within a fiscal year if they're a manager of a certain budget. But I just need to make sure, my feeling is that we need to do these things correctly, and there are some things that we can control and some things that we unfortunately cannot. And we came into office in December, and And
We
so
won't be
our-
looking at the
I'm sorry,
resolution
So
for-
our big impact will be in creating and approving the next budget.
We won't be taking the resolution up until the 14th of March. We will have been given next year's budget before that.
I understand.
Ms. Manis?
I misspoke here, and I've been looking at numbers for a long time. I just wanted to clarify. The Office of the Mayor is currently at past mid-year, 67.6% spent. However, the other contingency line, 6689, is 156.7% spent. So within the mayor's own budget, other contingency, it's overspent. It started with $10,000. It went up to $16,000. Many of these line items change daily, monthly. I understand that, but I just wanted to clarify for the record what I said. It was the 156.7 was in other contingency, and the mayor's office currently is at 67.6. That's clear.
As every department has, some lines might be over, some can be under, and they have the authority to, within their department, do budget transfers and manage to their bottom line. So I can't speak to one particular line item tonight, but that happens in many departments. If you look dollar-wise, there's other areas where it might be 80% spent, but they've spent over $2 million so far. So when you project that out over the year, they're going to be $500,000 over budget versus $6,000 over budget. So we have to keep things in perspective here.
So,
Yes.
All right, Chris Timniak, the CAO here. I'm looking at the list right now for the first time, and this is some of the stuff might work. Some of it, I can tell you now, is not going to work based upon my first 2 weeks here and knowing what I know about some of the accounts and how they're anticipated to be spent out throughout the year. Why don't I look at this list and come back before the 12th to the town council and give you what I can pull out of this, which is good.
Find me more.
Okay.
This is an ordinance in 2 weeks. It's too late.
I'm not following you in that 2 weeks is too late. I'm not following that.
If it doesn't come out of ordinance tonight with a recommendation to the council for next meeting,
It's got to be on the calendar for 2 months.
too late. It's going to be March 14th.
No, I don't know if that's
Doesn't
right,
anybody
right?
get that? Just me?
If we can get a resolution together, working with Chris, myself, and the council, and get it to you at least 5 days prior to the next regularly scheduled council meeting, you can act on it the second Monday in March. It's when it's an ordinance, it takes 3 times as long, and I honestly don't think it's necessary, so.
Yeah. Well, that's what we're talking about now, is ordinance.
1 week's notice.
Yes, remember, that power to transfer interdepartment under 6.2.5 requires posting for a week. So they really need to get it in here and get it posted on the signpost downstairs outside the town clerk's office for a week before any vote is taken.
A week.
Yes.
Yep.
I move that we bring it to a vote.
Second.
All those in favor of amending the ordinance?
I'd like a roll call vote, please.
Yeah. Okay.
No.
No.
Yes.
Is this on the amendment or the entire package?
On the amendment.
The amendment.
The amendment, yes.
Yes.
The chair votes no. So it would be 4 to 3.
Fails.
3 noes, 4 yeses.
Does not pass.
Right. So the motion fails. Then we come up to actually the original I, ordinance amending the annual operating budget. This is the first one that was put out there. Do I hear?
Now I believe we have a situation where the ordinance according to the attorneys, is illegal because we have removed the replacement of the mayor, an order to the mayor, and now the order to the mayor stands, and that's not legal.
So therefore, I would move to table.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So then I is tabled till next meeting.
The end.
Motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn?
Madam Chair, Mr. Chairman, sorry about that. Point of personal privilege, I would ask that the finance director and the CAO remain for the WPCA meeting, which is to follow immediately.
I know, but I want a motion to reconsider.
Did we move to adjourn?
Are we allowed to?
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
Aye.
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 And I've been paying it for 6 years. 9 years.
Hey, John, it's me. Yeah, Richard Dean.
Will the meeting come to order at 8:45?
Candy's here, just saying, you're on the wrong side. Hi, John.
First, there are two people, I believe, if they're still here, who, this is the River Valley Road. We have no other speakers. Before we get into the rest of the agenda, we do have a hearing. We also have handed out to every member a letter from Richard and Barbara Whalen regarding the River Valley Road extension, and a letter from Triple R Developers. I can't read his name.
That's a good one.
Robert didn't say what his name is. Whatever his name is. Right there. Benedetto? Yarzinski?
No, this man.
Oh, okay. Are either of the people who are going to speak, Marian Yarzinski or Robert Barrett, representing Triple R Developers? Are they here? All right, their letters will have to stand for them, and they can be considered read into the record. Mr. What was his name again? Barrett? No. Well, anyway, Triple R Developers just wants this 100 River Valley Road connected to the sewer, and the Whalens have had some conditions and reservations which they have addressed in their letter. Somewhat agreeing with it as long as the conditions are met. They are on septic right now.
Madam Chair?
Okay.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
Chair, may I ask where in the agenda we are? Have we approved the minutes
Initially, we had
I think
a public hearing.
I just want to clarify that the WPCA meeting hasn't started yet, and I think we're in the public hearing,
Okay,
which is a
I'm sorry.
separate meeting.
I'm sorry. It's
And
my
now,
first time here.
and now we're starting.
So have we? If the
I guess I called to order again. I didn't know whether the hearing. This is different than a regular public hearing, the sewer thing. Well, anyway, nobody's here to talk about
well, I
it.
would
Anyway.
just clarify if anybody else would like to speak, and then
Right.
if not, maybe you'd like to close the hearing.
Right. And there is no one else that wants to speak. I've asked that. And we have the two letters. Okay.
So we'll close the public hearing?
Moving into the actual agenda.
Madam Chair, you have to close
Yes.
the public hearing.
Pardon?
You have to close the public hearing for me.
Close the public hearing. Okay, it's closed. There was nobody to hear. Anyway, All right, I'm calling to order again. Okay, let's approve the minutes of the regular scheduled meeting of January 23rd of the Water Pollution Authority.
Madam Chairman, I move to approve the minutes of the January 25th, 2016 meeting of the Water Pollution Control Authority.
Second.
Is there any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, passed. All right, that was the... The next item was the sewer extension hookup for 100 River Valley Road. Mr. Casey, did you want to comment on that at all?
Well, at this point, we had sent certified letters to 4 of the owners as decided last month, and we received 2 pieces of correspondence back, as you showed at the public hearing. One of those was the person who had originally requested the sewers, and that was, of course, positive. And the other one, I actually spoke to them prior to their sending the memo, and they're interested, but again, they have some reservations as far as that they listed in their memo. That was that the cost of each. They understand that the cost of the project would be assessed to them, but they wouldn't be in favor of the project if the cost of the project would be more than what it would cost for them to replace their septic system.
Okay, talk about the Waylands.
This is the Waylands,
Yes.
And they also request that the assessed costs could be deferred till a date that they decided that they would connect to the project.
Okay.
And then, of course, the other one is if one owner defaulted, the cost wouldn't be spread out to the others, but that wouldn't be the case. So I would just recommend that if you were to approve the project, we didn't hear from the other 2 owners. One of the owners, I believe, was tonight and signed up, but didn't speak. So I'm not sure what their
Do we then have to wait for that? Wait on that?
Wait.
Should we wait to hear from them?
Well, we can certainly try to contact them and try to get their opinion for you if you would like to get their opinion before you make a decision.
There's a question over here.
There's a question within the Wayland's comments that was on bullet 3. It says that the assessed cost could be deferred to the date that the homeowner elected to connect to the force main. I want to know if that is true. And if deferred, their question was, would interest costs accrue and be charged to the homeowner from the time of the force main installation to the time of the connection to the system? And my big question with that is, if interest costs are not deferred and they are not accrued, if interest costs are not accrued, who is paying for it? And if they are being accrued, then how are we ensuring that if property doesn't change hands, is that part of the point of sale, or how's that handled? You mentioned it last time.
Yep. So when the project is completed, all the costs of the related to the project are tallied, and we have a public hearing, and we assess the owners that benefit from the project their share of the cost. And at that time, the WPCA will be setting the amount of the assessment, the payback period, the interest rate, and if there is any deferments that you would allow. So basically, you're deciding those issues.
Okay. Would they be
I think there's a caveat. I think that you can't allow a deferment indefinitely. I think there has to be a time limit on it, so that we would get you that information before you make the assessment, but certainly you could defer it for a period of years.
So we could potentially, I just want to follow up question, we could potentially begin a project without having decided those things beforehand, or would those things have to be decided before the project was begun?
Well, you can discuss them now, but you don't decide them until you make the formal assessment.
So
and you don't do that until the project's completed. We know
make
the
more
cost.
sense to wait then, I would think.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, it seems like their support of the project is rests on these specific issues, and rightfully so. If I'm purchasing a home and I'm selling my house, I want to sell my house in 5 years, and this accrued interest is going to be there, that's something that I would need to disclose to the new buyers, and that would change the property of my home.
So let me answer that question. I forgot to answer that part of your question. That is, once you make the assessment, that assessment is put on the land records as a lien on the property.
Right.
So anyone to buy the property will be aware of the obligation to pay it back.
Right.
Oh, did you have any further things to comment on, Mr. Casey?
Just that we had done a cost estimate based on the conceptual design. We think it's be about $55,000 to build the project, and that's going to be about $13,000 to $14,000 per homeowner, and then the homeowner would then also have to then connect to this pipe, and to do that they would have to pump. So the cost of a pump station at each home would be about $8,000 to $10,000. So they would be adding the, say, $8,000 to $10,000 to the $13,000 or $14,000, and you're going to come up with a $21,000 to $25,000 total cost.
Have you told them that? Have you written to them and explained that?
No, we were going to present that at the public.
It would seem to me one of the other things that he's asking whether something would be cheaper or equal to his septic tank change, but he would have to find that septic system replacement monies or cost on himself, right?
So what I would estimate is that the amount, the numbers I was just telling you would be equivalent to what it would cost to replace the septic system.
Oh.
So I think he would be interested in this project because it would probably be cheaper or equal to what it would cost for him to replace the septic system.
Madam Chairman, $24,000 is a substantial chunk of change, so it sounds like we've heard from 2 of the units, but not the other 2. So perhaps we should give a little more time and do more follow-up so we know what the other 2 units... No. We've heard from 2 of the homeowners, but not the other 2 who would be assessed the 14, like 14, 15,000, and then if they wanted to hook up. So it seems like we should give them a little. When were the letters sent?
They were sent a week or so before the hearing tonight, and that's required. We were supposed to be within 10 days of the hearing, so we're compliant with that requirement.
Yeah, but it seems like maybe sometimes people go away for a while, and maybe we should do some more aggressive follow-up of those other 2 homes so we can see how those homeowners feel about. I mean, I don't know if I'd be very happy if I was in Florida and came home and suddenly had an assessment for $14,000 on my house. So perhaps we should table this.
And I think it's
then.
not an assessment.
I think
it's a
we
lien.
just wait.
It's a lien.
There's no motion or anything. We can just
I
wait.
move to table.
Yeah.
I just had a quick
Do you have a mic?
I had a question. Yes. Through you, Madam Chair, John, let me ask a question kind of in reverse. If the town was to create this sewer line, could the homeowner at the last minute say, yeah, I don't want to do it? And
No, once you decide to do it, we're doing it and we're assessing the cost.
Okay. Thank you.
I believe, too, Beth, that if I'm not mistaken, the payments can be put over a number of years.
Yeah, it's
instead of a lump sum.
No, I understand.
Yeah.
Typically, just so you know, it's
lien.
about $1,000 per year. So if it's a $13,000, it'd be a 13-year payback.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah.
Pete, did you have some report, excuse me, to give us? I have a question to ask you because I've heard that the town has instituted a answering service, and I'm wondering what your experience has been with that answering service.
Point of procedure, Madam Chair. We have a motion on the floor to table this issue with the River Valley Road. There was a motion to table.
Mm-hmm.
And
It wasn't seconded. There's no need to table it. You just let it go.
Okay.
No,
know
I
what I
think
mean?
you need to table or do something with that before we go on to another topic.
I don't believe you need to table it.
Okay, then perhaps, okay, well, it's your meeting.
Back to Mr. Stallings. And I'm interested in the answering service business.
Madam Chairman?
Yes.
I'm sorry, Madam Chairman, but I do have a procedural question. Why aren't we following the agenda?
You know what? I left out the reports. They usually give a report every meeting, and I apologize for that, but they're here, and I would like to hear from them.
Fine, I understand.
Just if you wanted to add an item to the agenda, then
I shall.
You should vote to waive the rules and then add the item for discussion.
Yeah.
Vote to waive the rules.
Second.
We voted
Okay.
to waive the rules. We had a
Motion to waive the rules,
and a second.
to accept the reports. Second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Passed. Okay. Now, Pete.
Okay, if I understand the question, I guess, regarding an answering service that we have in the Public Works Department and how it's been extended to the Water Pollution Control Division. Yeah, we were given a verbal directive about a month ago that we would let the answering service handle all calls after our normal work hours, which are Monday through Friday, 7 to 3 p.m. But I just want to bring to your attention, we do have a 24-hour operation. You know, there is always somebody there, and typically when we get a call, it's generally a problem call, a sewer backup of some sort, and our staff, the staff we have, is trained to handle those calls. So I do have some concerns with it going out to an answering service because I may not get notification of that issue for days later. Our staff may be notified, or they may send a crew out to do some work, but we're not made aware of it. So I think if that's what you're looking for is, I'm not quite sure why they extended the answering service to our division, but we are 24-hour, and I think we should respond personally to all the calls that come in.
Have you had any situations where the response wasn't as quick simply because of the answering? It seems to be interposed. And if you're on there 24/7 and you've got people there, I guess my mystery is I don't understand the answering service.
There could be situations, yes, where there's a time delay getting a crew dispatched out, because it does go through an answering service. The answering service, I believe, texts the messages to personnel in the Public Works Department, not our division, and then from there it has to be sent out to our crew. So, I had a situation where we had a sewer backup, and I received the claim from the town attorney's office before I was even aware that we had a sewer backup. So I'm not quite sure, how efficient this is, but I would question the efficiency of that.
Yes.
Can I ask the CAO if he's still here?
He's right over here.
To comment on the reason to have an answering service for the water treatment plant?
I don't know much about the situation in the WPCA regarding the answering service. This is the first I'm hearing about it, and I'm happy to look into it. I don't mean to give you a runaround answer. I'm really hearing about it for the first time. I've used answering services in the past. I believe Public Works also has an answering service. The last town I worked for had an answering service, which came through on the weekends, and I know that I guess it all depends on what answering service is and how quickly they respond and how quickly they get the message out. And I'm sure there are good answering services and bad answering services.
So,
Mr. Chase?
Thank you. Come on up, Sue. The question I have is, which I think the members of the committee would like to know, is why was WPCA staff told not to answer the phone? We have 24-hour service, or rather staffing. They sit in front of these beautiful consoles and monitor the entire town sewer system. There's one guy sitting there. If the phone rings, he can't answer it. It's got to go to the answering service. That makes no sense to me.
I second the question.
I couldn't even begin to comment on that.
So if you could check that out, and in line with that, because it is related, Sue, I'd like to know why the Public Works Director does the WPCA budget.
Mr. Stallings and Mr. Casey report to the Public Works Director. Mr. Stallings and Mr. Casey both contribute. They help do that budget. I also work on that budget as far as the rate calculation. I get information from the assessor's office, the number of homes that have single multifamily homes, and the flow information for all our commercial users. So it's a collaborative effort, but the answer is it ultimately it goes up to the Public Works Director because the people that run the WPCA work for the Public Works Director.
Then how do we know, or how do we monitor, or how do we ensure, probably is the better way to put it, that the Public Works Director isn't using the WPCA as their kitty to fund things that they would like for Public Works?
I second the question.
I don't think that's happening, but meetings like this are effective. This is the first we've heard of it tonight, so if there's any suspicion of impropriety, we're more than happy to look into it. I review bills every day, purchase orders, department heads sign off. We have an approval system in our accounting system, so people have to approve things. So.
Okay, well then let me give you an example, all right? Let's take the generator, the WPCA generator that's been taken out of the WPCA and either lent or rented to the town of Shelton. Now, does the WPCA get any funding back for that?
If that is the case, then they need to provide that information to me because we need to take that capital asset off our fixed asset books. And I would think some type of other monetary adjustment should be made. Right. So I'm not aware of that.
Okay. Well, then the part of that question then probably goes back to the CAO. Since and we've talked about this already, 3 of our pump stations do not have automatic generators, all right? That's why we have this portable generator that Shelton now has. Who's going to take care? How do we ensure when those generators that don't have an automatic generator fails that people don't wind up with back sewer lines?
So, and a couple things. I would just go take it from Shelton if they have it. To be honest, I mean, this is a great question. If I didn't just start 2 weeks ago, I don't want to say it's not fair.
I am not picking on you, sir.
Tomorrow morning, I can promise that I'll be contacting Mo to ask him about the generator. This morning, I met with Mr. Stallings for the first time and Mo, the head of the Public Works, to discuss his budget. We had a nice collaborative session. We agreed on a couple things we were going to look to. I did ask Mr. Stallings how the budget was presented. He said that he worked collaboratively with Mo to bring us the document. There's a couple things we're going to drill down a little bit on. I mean, it's a little early, I'll say that, for me to comment on this generator and the whereabouts it is and the history and the path it's gone on.
I just want to comment on the generator, too. I happened to talk to my daughter in Georgia, and she said that just oddly enough, they had a situation in their county where a pump station failed. They didn't have an alternate generator. I understand that 10 of ours do have additional side-by-side generators, but 3 don't, and they need that generator. Well, what happened in Georgia is the sewage backed up, and the EPA is exacting a large fine on them due to that. So I think we need to get our generator back.
Right. Right. A couple of things I'd like to look into. One would be solar. I see that a lot of pump stations throughout Connecticut and a lot of pump stations in the Northeast are adding solar panels to the roofs. A couple of things. One, the electricity goes right off the grid, and it helps lower the actual monthly cost of the electrical bill. 2, it always leaves a fully charged battery for backup on the panel. So, if you did lose electricity, you'd have the ability to do that. And right now, I know the state of Connecticut is offering a lot of ZREC grants, which I think we should probably look into. I think this is the last year for that program, too. So I'd like to put a big list together.
You are correct.
Yeah, a big list together of ZREC programs we can apply for.
Tina?
Hi, thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to say that I'm glad you met with Pete. And I wanted to comment that Pete is, I've gotten to know Pete over the last couple of months, and he is one of the most honest and full of integrity people I've ever met. And I do not think that any of this kind of funny business that's going on has anything to do with him. And I think that I find that the closer you get to Pete and you know what he's doing, he's very, very knowledgeable. But I will say this, he also has a great staff. The conversation regarding the not answering the phone was brought to my attention by WPCA workers that work and privately came to me and were worried because they feel that that's not effective. As he said, 24-hour service. We know before the problems happen. We don't want a service. Can you help us? It wasn't about pointing fingers. It was about those guys at the plant and women knowing that this was not efficient and there was something better and that the town was in danger of possibly something happening with this service in place. So if you could look into that as quickly as possible, because I trust the people who do the work.
Perhaps offline you could tell me where to start and who instructed them not to make...
Yeah, why not?
Not to answer the phone.
Okay. Mm-hmm. All right, 2 things to comment on. One, I wonder, Sue, can you get, if possible, what account and the cost for that phone answering service? Because here's my problem. I know the town hall closes at such and such a time. Nobody has an emergency call to come to town hall. Fire, police, and EMS are not going to use an answering service. God forbid, if somebody's dying, they don't want an answering service intermediary between the EMS and them. They want 911 response right away. So, who needs this service?
I'll look into the
Yeah, I just like to find out how much it's costing us.
Okay, but I think we might be getting ahead of ourselves. I mean, there could be a very good explanation. So
Yeah, all right.
let's not assume
Well,
it's
no,
the
it's
worst.
just if you can find it, you can
and,
find it.
You know, as far as the people working there 24/7,
Okay.
it could be that they're, obviously Tina's hearing something. I haven't heard anything.
Okay.
They could be busy doing the work that they're trained to do and not always answering the phone as quickly as possible. I have no idea, but we will get the answers for you.
WPCA? They have an
Okay, so we'll get the
Yeah,
answers.
okay.
No problem. And Mrs. Ponte.
I have one more
Mr. Chairman?
Job for you. I saw in the paper, in the Post, about, I think it was last week, or maybe a little week before, a request for bid for storage units for the WPCA. What I found out is that the WPCA has no need for storage units. And these storage units, according to the bid specifications, were going to be put in empty rooms at the WPCA. Well, there are 2 empty rooms there, but WPCA is not storing anything there, okay? And I really don't want the WPCA to have to pay for storage units, and they're quite extensive if you look up on the bids thing, people. I didn't say expensive, I said extensive, but I expect them to be expensive. If, as rumor has it, either town hall is going to put records there or they're going to take records and things from center school. But at any rate, the WPCA is not using it, so I don't think we should have to pay for them.
Okay.
Okay?
I'll look into it.
Can I just follow up real quick on that? And if, in fact, the town is going to store material in that location, shouldn't they be paying rent to the WPCA?
Of course. Figure it out. I mean, it may turn out that that's the plan. I'm not aware of the details of that plan. It might be cheaper for the town to pay a small fee to WPCA and the cost of the shelving to store items that otherwise we'd have to send off site. You know. So.
Hi, I guess I'm looking at the agenda here, and just to get back to this, the 100 River Valley Road, it seems like we took no action on it, and then the telephone machines answering service discussion was introduced.
That was because I had omitted
Yes, no,
the
that's fine,
reports,
that's fine.
which
But
I
we
will
had a waiver
henceforth always remember to put in my agenda.
of the rules.
Okay.
And so now I just want to know where we are here.
Okay, so we're past the River Valley Road thing. They're going to wait until they hear from more people.
Is that what's happening?
Okay.
They're going to wait? So it's tabled? It's not tabled.
There's no motion, you just wait till the people respond to his letters.
Okay.
We don't need to right now. I believe we don't need a motion.
Can I ask the town attorney for a second? Do we need a motion to table that, Mr. Hodgson or Mr. Flores?
No.
No, you can just let it fall off the agenda,
off.
and it will be brought
Thank you,
back by
Thank you, John.
Mr. Casey if action is needed.
Okay.
You're only going to table something if you want to maintain it on the agenda because you know you're going to take further action on it
Okay.
at some point in time. So.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, moving on to the Fats, Oils, and Grease program. We passed that at the last town council meeting. It was an ordinance. And I just wanted to know if there about any progress on the registering and inspection in conjunction with the health department. Did either Pete or John have any information on that? No?
We sent registrations out, probably 2 to 3 years ago. Then we'd follow through, see who didn't register, we'd resend them. Last analyst, we did on the feedback was that we've got about 55% of the restaurants responding to the registration. Of that, some are in compliance with the program. There's a small percentage that aren't in compliance with the program. So that is, probably the reason why we had to get an ordinance passed, because we didn't have any enforcement power to go after the restaurants that weren't responding to the program. But this Fats, Oil, and Grease program, or at least the ordinance, goes back quite some time. And then it was tabled with the possible sale of the plant. So I would just like to have some time now to go through the ordinance and make sure that, it will fit the needs of both the restaurant owners and our ability to track this system and follow through with it. But beyond that, we are working on the program and it is moving forward.
Do you have any contact with the health department? From what I understand from the ordinance, that they were supposed to be assisting in some fashion?
Yeah, they'll go out and they'll give us a heads up if there's a problem with a grease trap in any of the restaurants. Also, they can delay issuing a permit to open up a restaurant if the restaurant hasn't complied to the registration process. So we do work with the health department on that. But there are quite a few transfers of ownership in the restaurant industry, so it can be somewhat taxing to keep up with everything. The burden falls on us mainly because this ordinance is to protect the fats, oils, and greases that enter the sewer line. It's really not a health issue with the health department or the quality of the food service. So we have to make sure that we have enough staff or enough information amongst our staff where we can outreach and try to get these restaurants into compliance. Enforcement is one portion of the ordinance, but we'd like to see if we could prevent enforcement and reach out and get these restaurants to comply, at least register, so we have them on our record base.
Tina?
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. I have a quick question about this fats, oil, grease program. There are a lot of mom and pop shops that are here, a lot of restaurants that have been in town for a long time. Friends of mine, their families own them. Do you know if this impacts any of these long time, are there any that are out of compliance? Do we have any record of how many are out of compliance, how many are in compliance?
Well, the health department rates a restaurant to the type of cooking they do. And under the state statutes, the regulations pretty much apply to what they call a Class 3 or a Class 4 restaurant. And these are restaurants that prepare raw meats and generate grease during the cooking process. There are some cases, though, where a health department will issue a permit for a restaurant to open and classify it, say, a Class 3, and that's where we can review the menu of the restaurant, because it may fall under the health department's classification as a Class 3, but we don't view it as a grease generator type of a restaurant. One example might be a Subway or a deli that doesn't do a lot of cooking. They just pretty much sell prepared foods. So when they do register, that gives us the opportunity to look at the menu, and on a case-by-case basis, then we can waive the requirements, to meet the state statutes. But the state statutes do call for, this goes back to 2011, that all restaurants in town that are classified Class 3 or Class 4 are to meet the current standards for grease removal, and it's only our division that can waive those rules, and we will do it. But we have to view the menu, and we have to see the amount of grease that is being generated by each restaurant.
Thank you. Are there any other questions for the fats and oil? All right, let's move on to inflow and infiltration, the ionized study. There were interviews last week, and I wonder if we could get a report on the results of the interview and who you chose.
Yes, the committee of Mr. Stallings, myself, and Ms. Manis and Mr. Llewellyn interviewed the 4 firms and rated them, and we selected Ty and Bond as the preferred engineering firm. And we have reached out to Ty and Bond, and they discussed the first part of the scope of work, which would be the gauging and monitoring of the sewer flows that we hope to do this spring as soon as we can possibly get it done. So they are preparing a scope and fee for this week, and we're going to submit that to DEP when it's received, so that we can get DEP's review process started. And we're hoping that they can authorize us to proceed on that phase of the work, for which we would then later apply for the Clean Water Fund grant, which would be a 50-50 grant for doing the monitoring, as well as the second phase of this, which would be the actual study part.
Was there a percentage associated with the grant, or was it just a...
Yeah, it'd be 50% grant, 50% loan? I think it is loan. 50% grant, 50% loan.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we're moving on to the pump station study.
Madam Chairwoman?
Yes, I'm sorry.
I wanted to share something put into the record about that. The group that was chosen, one of the things that they did identify is the necessity to move forward with that project, and that they promised us that it would be expedient. They were very, very well spoken. They've worked with the town before. They spoke about cost-saving measures, so the 50-50 grant, I think, we will find that it will be good. And then the other piece with this is there was the recording of all the interviews and everything is available for the public. So if they'd like to see that information, it's available.
Oh, yeah, thank you.
Just to clarify, we didn't record the interviews, but we did rank the interviews with a series of questions and rankings for the members. So we have the.
Is that audio or?
No, it's paper rankings of the interview questions that we posed. So we didn't record the interviews.
Thank you.
The results. Yeah.
Okay, moving on to the pump stations. I would like to set up a subcommittee of 4 WPCA members, and 2 from each party. I'm not going to select them tonight. I'm going to look for volunteers afterwards. And they would be working with Mr. Stallings and Mr. Casey on a long-term plan for the pump station rehabilitation. And we're talking, I think, out 8 to 10 years? Was that the real long-range plan?
Yes.
Which required a considerable bonding. However, if this subcommittee studies it with Mr. Stallings and Mr. Casey and reports back to the committee, I think you'll be able to get a better idea of what's needed, why it's needed, etc., or maybe not needed, for that matter. So that I'm looking for a motion to set up the subcommittee. Anybody make a motion?
Motion to set up your subcommittee.
Second.
There's been a motion made to set up the subcommittee to assist at the pump station study. Seconded.
Madam Chair?
And is there any discussion?
Yeah.
Yes.
Can I ask how this would work, how the subcommittee works and what the expertise is on it? So it would be town,
The
Mr. Casey,
expertise,
Mr.
the city's
Stallings?
down there.
But is there any external expertise that should be on it also? Like for example, I know nothing about this field. And so perhaps there are some citizens in town that have expertise in this area that could also be added to it.
I think that's a great idea. There is some piece with this pump station study. I think the information that comes from the infiltration, even though they're separate, will inform some of this pump stations. If you read through the RFPs that are available, a lot of them talk about these pump stations as being possible part of the problem, where we're having the possible surges. So they talk about looking at this as well. So I would assume that they're going to be working with us and monitoring and kind of working with the town, that if we ask them for their expertise as well with regards to this, they may have information to share. I don't know if Mr. Casey or Mr. Stallings would agree with me, but they seem to have a very intimate knowledge. I think one of them worked on the pump stations when they were built, the Holly Lane pump station, so they may have some working knowledge and be social capital that we already have contracts with.
On that point, we're going to hire a consultant.
You are?
For that project.
Okay.
So we're going to go through the same process we just did for the I&I to hire a consultant for the pump station designs. I think what you're asking
for the
is
subcommittee, because I know it was mentioned
body.
in 2 pieces. There was the short term, fix this, fix that, but then there was an idea of having a long-term look ahead 8, 10 years. And that's what I thought the subcommittee would concern itself with.
Right, but it's a subcommittee of the Water Pollution Control Authority?
Pardon?
It's a subcommittee of the Water Pollution Control Authority? It would be a subcommittee of this body?
Yes. Yeah, we take 4 people from the body, and they would work with you people and whoever else you brought in for expertise.
Your consultant.
And then they would come back and report to the larger group.
And I'm sorry.
Well, there's a motion on the floor, and it's been seconded. Is there any other discussion?
Yeah, Mr. Stallings and/or Mr. Casey, what are your thoughts on setting up a subcommittee of people who don't know anything about pump stations?
They'll learn.
Ben, I can promise you'll learn quick.
You learn real quick.
Well, in order to obtain the 20% grant, we're going to have to go through a a quality-based selection process to select the engineers to do the work. I suppose, we might not need 4 members. We could possibly reduce it to 2 like we did on the I&I study. But maybe the first step would be to, if we had a 4-person subcommittee, to bring them together with Ty and Bond, who did the facility plan on the 6 pump stations, and kind of bring you up to date of what they found and what their approach would be. Obviously, they would be one of the engineering firms, in competition to do the work, but at the very least, they can inform everybody, what they looked at in the system and what they think is priority and what, you can discuss the cost. So more just an informational meeting for the first step. And then maybe from that point on, then we can select a committee for the selection process of the engineer.
Beth?
Mr. Stallings, would you appreciate or discourage us from having citizens on it who may have an expertise in this area? I just want your honest thoughts on that.
Yeah. I would just say if this is your subcommittee, not ours, so we're going to be working on the project regardless. And so if you want to people but their job would be to work out all the details and questions and try to get as much out of the project as possible and bring the information to you for approval. For further questioning.
I just want to explain something, Beth. This is my reasoning. And for the I&I, these 2 guys could have done it alone. But I asked Alan and I asked Tina to accompany them. And it was a long haul, I would imagine. And they learned a lot. And this is what I'm thinking, too. These 2 gentlemen could certainly do the whole thing and then come back and report to us. But if we involve 4 other people, we will have more knowledge about what the heck we're doing. That's my point. Okay, we don't need to bring in outside expertise. They will if they need it.
I understand. Thank you for that.
Yes.
And Ty and Bond also mentioned that they would be happy to do public forums, public info sessions, just like he mentioned about the I&I study, and maybe with the pump station information as well, to bring everybody up to date, because there are a lot of public people interested in this, so we can maybe do that.
Is there any other discussion on the motion? Are you ready for a vote?
No.
Are you still looking for volunteers?
Pardon?
Are you still looking for volunteers?
Yes.
Okay, I'll volunteer.
Good. I'll put your name down right
now.
Mr. Chase.
One other point of discussion is how...
Are you volunteering?
No. I'm just asking. I just wanted to know what the time commitment that you envision for this subcommittee is.
Pardon?
I'm wondering what the time commitment you envision for the subcommittee. What sort of time commitment would it take?
It might be once a month in advance of this meeting, so that any ideas can be thrashed out before it comes to the full body for decision making.
Well, then it might be reasonable then to look at the people who are not on pension.
Well, I don't mean right before this meeting. I mean a week or 2 before the meeting, so we have time to.
No, I meant at 6 o'clock.
Okay.
Well, that would be good.
Any more discussion?
Can I ask one question? Regarding this pump study, you're going to be having interviews, correct, for this again?
Yes.
So potentially these 4 people, 2 of them would be selected to be on the interview committee again, potentially, or all 4, or?
However you want to do it.
Okay.
But it would be helpful to have that participation.
I would just like to say, I think I speak with Alan too, to say that it's really, really a great experience to be on the interview committee. You learn a lot about the town and what's happened in the town. A lot of these people have RFPs that, some new and some old, but there's a lot of history in them. So it's really worth it. It's a good idea.
Yeah. I knew that would happen. Okay, if there's no more discussion, we'll take a vote on the motion to set up a
Madam Chairman,
subcommittee.
you only have 1 volunteer. You need 3 more.
Oh, well, I was going to get them afterwards.
She
I
said
was
she was
perfectly willing to go after you guys later. But if any other volunteers? Well, we have a lot of missing people.
I think Ms. DePonte would be a perfect person to sit on this committee.
What did you say?
That you'd be perfect to sit on this
I know.
committee with me.
Thank you for thinking I'm perfect, then.
Okay. Let's vote on the motion.
Did you
Beth?
just volunteer?
This is to form the subcommittee. Beth, pay attention.
Yes, aye.
Yes? What happened to him? Oh, okay.
Did he get attacked by the stress balls?
Yes?
Yes.
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 Okay, we got the committee. Yes. All righty. The next one also requires, it's Computil billing service, which we use every year, and they've sent us their agreement, and they would like a motion to accept their agreement for their billing service. That's Computil. Do I hear a motion for that?
To accept their...
Okay, motion made.
Second.
And seconded to accept the Computil billing service. Is there any discussion?
Yes.
Yes.
Has the town attorney had the opportunity to review this contract or this potential contract?
I did review it. I understand there's a slight increase from last year.
How much? How much?
I don't know, it's $7,200 a year, so I'm not quite sure what the increase is, but I'm told it's not large, given the total amount now. And I reviewed the other provisions, and it was fine.
Okay, can I just ask about Section 6 a bit for subcontractors?
Yep.
It reads that upon written approval of the client, which approval shall not be unreasonably withheld, Computil shall have the right to subcontract its duties to a qualified subcontractor. Is that something, I mean, don't we want them to do the work? Rather than, I mean, it seems like they could subcontract it pretty easily with that clause.
Weren't they subcontracting the computer stuff?
I'm sorry?
Weren't they subcontracting some of the computer work?
I don't know. I was just reading the
thought that's
contract,
what
and
it
it looked pretty open-ended in terms of subcontractors. And I just wanted the assurance that if we're hiring them, that they're doing the work and not a subcontractor.
Yeah, I think the provision that it states upon written approval of the client, that we have control over that.
But it also says that we can't unreasonably withhold it.
And I don't think it's unreasonable to insist that they do the work themselves. If they had some good reason, we could listen to it.
Okay.
So I think we're covered.
Okay. I just wanted to be more comfortable. Thank you.
Did you have a comment, Sue?
They're our current vendor, and we're very happy with them.
Okay.
And we need to pay a third party to get the data from the water company. So we have to pay somebody. So if it's not Computel, it'll be somebody else. But so
Thank
far,
you.
we're very happy with them.
Okay.
That was my question.
Mitzi,
Yes.
one of the things that we learned, right, and when we went through the interview is that sometimes when they use the subcontractors, it's how they get to the women's business piece and the minority business piece. So even with the T and Bond, all of them mentioned how they would use subcontractors to fulfill that for the reimbursement. And this is something that even if there's no reimbursement involved, I would like to see in the future, possibly, if we could require state people who contract with us, sorry, I say state a lot, municipal contracts to, if they're going to subcontract, to adhere to those rules, even though there's no reimbursement or requirement, that they would use those same kind of guidelines to make sure that we have women and minority business represented through subcontracting.
Yeah, I don't exactly know what the subcontracting is.
Yeah, I'm just
I
saying.
imagine it's rather minor.
Something to
Is
think about.
there any other discussion on this motion to accept Computil billing? If not, we'll have a vote.
Aye.
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 Aye. Okay. Passed. Okay. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Before you adjourn,
Woody.
could I just add one item? I don't know if I'm adding an item or talking about.
I'm sorry, what?
Under the billing item, I just wanted to report that the town is going to be sending out letters, I think, to some of the property owners that we have imprecise records of whether they're connected to the sewer system or not. And some of those owners that may be connected to the sanitary sewer system, but we don't have a record of it, may not be being billed. And so we are going to be sending letters out to these suspected owners and request that they get in touch with us so we can review the status of their sewer service connection.
Okay, this is before we adjourn. Let me ask you one question on that. Are we talking about people who are connected to the sewer line but are not being billed because we don't have a record of them being connected?
Correct.
Okay.
How many,
just that group.
How many are you estimating, or how many letters are you sending out?
I don't have a tally. It's probably, I'm going to say 50 off the top of my head.
All right.
Are these the same people that are the people that were double charged because
No,
of the second home?
this is different.
The ones with the in-law ones and all that?
No, this has nothing to do with that. It's just whether the house is connected to the sewer system and whether we have a record of it or not.
All right, Mr. Florek?
No, I just wanted that for clarification, Madam Chairman, because the town attorney's office is working on that question of the accessory apartments and how you define that for purposes of sewer use fees. I just wanted to make sure that these letters did not pertain to that.
That's why I asked them the question. It's solely people who were attached to the sewer lines who have not been identified and have not been billed. Okay.
Madam
There's a motion
Chairman?
to adjourn.
Yes, Chairman.
Yes. What?
Are these 50 letters, are they the majority in one area of the town, or are they scattered throughout the town?
Pretty well scattered, I would say.
Can we know where they're from, so if they're in our districts, we can reach out to these people?
I mean, I can send you a list of the property addresses.
All right.
I'd like one as well.
Okay.
Can I ask, are we at this point, we just want information from them, or what is the purpose of the letter exactly?
We have two categories. One is we're pretty sure you're connected, but we can't find a record of it. And then we have another category where we're not sure. So we have a pretty sure and a not sure. And those two categories, we have slightly different wording. And the ones we're pretty sure, we're saying, if you don't get back to us within a reasonable amount of time, we may send you a bill. And then at that time, if you contest it, we can always go back and look at it again. The other one, we're saying, please contact us so we can talk to you and decide, if we can go out maybe to your house and make a determination of whether you're connected or not. Or you
Okay.
can provide us other information, like if you recently had your septic system pumped out, then obviously you're on septic, that type of thing.
And if we do bill them, I mean, are we indicating that we're billing them just for this year, or how far back is this going?
Well, that's, I think, a discussion that maybe we want to have in the future, but right now we just want to get the letters out and see what we can find out about, what we don't know.
Please send me a list of those people before you send the letters.
Sure.
I think I may want one too now.
I'll send it to everybody.
There was a motion to adjourn,
Second.
and it was seconded, and there's no debate, but that's okay.
Aye.